going through it and building out these reports using the GL function. Glenn said that those were going to be pressing ones, ones that need to roll out first, so we'll get some hands-on with that. But there were a couple things that came up during the training. I said, you know, it's not part of this training, we'll cover it. It was conditional hiding. There was this idea, somebody had asked, well, what if I don't want to see these things? And sometimes you'll come across a question that there's no way to really pull the answer. If I were to come in here and I say, okay, here are all my GL accounts, and I want to find all the accounts that had a posting last year, but didn't have a posting this year. I can't do that in one query. I can say, give me all the accounts that posted last year, or give me all the accounts that posted this year, or give me all the accounts that posted within that time frame. But none of those really answer my question. So what I ended up having to do here is I created a quick little report that shows every GL account, and I counted how many transactions each of those posted based on the year, 2015 or 2016. Well, I can now see which ones have postings in 2015, but none in 2016. But it's kind of a nuisance to kind of scroll through here and figure out which ones are which. So this is where this concept of a conditional hide comes in. To do a conditional hide, right, all I'm going to do is actually hide the rows that don't meet a certain criteria or do meet a certain criteria. Another keyword that we introduced for this is hide plus question mark. And this will go either in B2 or A2. If I want to hide row or columns, typically we hide rows though. So hide plus question mark. And what we want to do is in the row where our replicator is, where we're going to run this little if statement, we put that in column B. And in column B, all we do is create an if statement. If, let's say, cell F8 is greater than 0, oops, I want an AND statement here.
Sorry, Brian.
That's okay.
I'm not licensed anymore.
Are you on the JET training or are you on your SMI? Your JET training will no longer work. So anything we go through today, we won't be able to work on together at this point. We're only going to spend about 15 minutes, 20 minutes on this. And because it's such a process, you know, everything we went through. So yeah, unfortunately, once you activate your SMI license, the other one goes away. So these files I will send you as well. I didn't want to send them to you before we went over them because you wouldn't know what they were. So I need to say, well, if this is greater than 1 and this is, you know, 0, I'm going to just put in my AND statement. If this is greater than 0 and this is equal to 0, well, what do I want to do? I want to show that row. Otherwise, I want to hide that row. Did I get that right? And so now I've got, here are all the counts that had a transaction this year, or last year, but none this year. Now the thing with the conditional hide is if I go to unhide, we can still see it's doing all of the calculations.
Can you show me that function again?
The function is just, yeah, it's just Excel.
Show.
Yeah, it's just Excel, it's just an if statement. The only thing that is, it's either show or hide, you know, or my two results. And I could, you know, reverse that, say, okay, well, this is equal to 0, and yeah, let's show the ones where they're both equal to 0. So here are my accounts where both of them are equal to 0. They have, nobody's posted to these in 2 years. Explore why that is. The thing I stress with conditional hide is it still does all of the calculations on these rows. So without the conditional hide, if it takes 20 minutes to run your report, it's still going to take 20 minutes. Even though we're hiding, we may only return like 3 rows of data. It still has to do all 20,000 rows of the calculations in order to find out those. So find the best way to actually get your query to bring back what you want, as opposed to a conditional hide. But like I said, sometimes there's just no way around it, right? Here's another one. Show customers that have invoices and have returns. Right? Well, again, these are two separate things. I've got a customer, I can get a query and say, well, they've got a return, but I can't say, but don't have this. It's not the same. You just don't have a way to filter that. So I had to do the same sort of thing. Count the number of invoices, count the number of credit memos, and then I build my conditional hide plus question mark. And I want to say if they had an invoice and if they had a credit memo. So I just do the same thing, if and this is greater than 0 and this is greater than 0. If they're both greater than 0, we are going to show that row, else we are going to hide that row. So I have 4 customers who have purchased something and then made returns, and then we did a calculation, how much of that stuff are they returned.
Was it earlier you just hit unhide and it?
Yeah, if you ever get want to see, you can hit unhide.
What's up?
Or you can simply just grab your cells,
And unhide.
yeah, and unhide it that way.
Okay.
It's just the same. Now unhide will actually unhide all of the jet functionality. So if you don't want to unhide all that stuff. But this is nice because then you can actually see, yep, it's doing the right thing.
Oh, you want me?
So that's conditional hide. Use it sparingly because it will slow down your reports. One of the things that's in the book, it's actually on page 433 and 434, talks about adding charts and graphs to your reports. And adding a chart and graph in Excel is pretty easy, but doing it from a dynamic report is a little bit more difficult. So let's kind of talk about this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a fairly simple one. And we're going to do their total sales. I'm going to just do a list of my customer numbers and their total sales, because I know I can get that from one specific table. This will also allow me to kind of show you how I can do a top 10 list. So the first thing I want to do is I go to my replicator. I'm going to go to my rows, go to my customer table, and I'm going to pull the number. List of all my customers. Well, in that, I'll do it first. In that table, we actually have something called sales. It just keeps track of all their sales. Oops. And I need to tie it to where the number is equal to what we have here. So I run this. There's no real order to it. So how do we do a sort? Go back to our replicator. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to do it this way rather than doing a sort by a sum, like sum up all the transactions from some other table. Again, that's probably just a half-hour tutorial of how to go about doing that. But I can come in here and look at my sales, bring back all my sales, and rank them. But I want descending, right? I want the highest value first to the lowest value. Now when I do that, I've got my list here. Problem is if I try to make a chart out of this, there we go, that's whatever it is. Okay. It's really kind of hard to read and I've got a whole bunch of zeros. So it's probably not what I want to do. Delete this whole thing. Okay. It would probably be easier if we narrowed down this a little bit and made it a top 10, top 5, whatever it is we want. So in our replicator is where we're going to do this. We are going to add this limit equals. This is one of our JET keywords down here. Limit equals basically says when you go out, bring back only this number of records, or a maximum of these number of records, right? If I say bring back 10 and it only finds 3, it's only going to bring back 3. It's not going to fill in this gap. So I can say limit equals 10. Now when I rerun this, I have my top 10 customers by sales.
Does it matter if the limit to 10 is above the filter?
Nope. Just like any other filter, it doesn't matter the order unless it's you have multiple sorts.
Got it.
Can you still give the total sales, so you can see what the other, anything out of the top 10 equals?
With this query, it stops at 10, that's it. It's done. Now, you could build in something that is an option, top question mark, and make that an option. And so that you could come in and say, okay, well, my limit is whatever they choose here. So if I change this to 25, we're going to make it a report option, do it the proper way, and then they can change it and refresh it. But that would be the only way. You can't really unhide information because it actually doesn't bring it back.
Can we choose all on the top, on C2?
Here?
Yeah, asterisk, or can you show me the formula on E7? What is the symbol that you put in there on sales?
But you can almost.
Sales dollars.
It's the minus. It's the
no,
star.
the symbol.
This?
Yeah, kind of.
It's a star. It's an asterisk.
Oh, just star. Oh.
Yeah, I didn't want to filter anything out. I wanted to bring back all sales totals.
All right.
All right, or maybe I make it something greater than 0, so that way I know I won't get any zeros in there. Okay.
My eyes are not.
So let's just do top 5 here. Okay. So we've got our top 5 customers. Now, like I said, normally we'd come in and we could make a nice little chart here, a little pie chart here. Easy to read, easy to do. The problem comes in is when I refresh this data, it just gets that top value, and it has to do with that whole concept of it deletes all these rows, and so Excel says, oh, I don't need those anymore, and now I'm just getting the total for this one. So we have to use our anchor row. The only problem is tables don't recognize those blank spaces, right? If I try and include that blank space at the end, it's just like, okay, and I weed it off. So when you build a chart, you actually have to put in something in your anchor row. And if this is all going to be text, right, if these are text values, I need to put in something that's text. If these are integers, I have to put in something that's an integer. I couldn't put 0 here and blank here, because then the chart's going to grab these and not know what to do and say, well, these are going to be all text, and suddenly it gets a number. These are all numbers, and suddenly I get text. So keep it consistent, whatever it is in that row or that column. 0. And then put your chart together on this page. So I'll grab my chart. Now it understands I've got my replicator and my anchor row. And when I run my report, I get that. The only problem is I've got that anchor in there. Good news with charts is if I hide that row, right, I hide my anchor row, it no longer includes it on there. So we need to include it and then just hide it. So that's how we have to go about building charts and graphs, is we have to include that anchor row, and we have to put something in there and just hide it. So that's what the instructions on 433 and 434 really are detailing out. I'm just going through and doing that process.
And I noticed that you didn't have to put in rows equals 2.
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
you just added the anchor row down beneath. There's no other.
Exactly. So you could get very creative. I've had people say, well, could I do something like, here's my top 5 and then everyone else? Yes, you could do something like that, and so what I'd have to do is equal, sum of these values here. Right? Give me the sum of all those, and then I'd have to do all others. Just label that, and what I would do is run this same query. Paste it there. Fix it. So I actually want the sum of all the customer sales for everybody, but I want to take out this value.
That's actually what
That's
I
what
was
you
asking
want.
earlier.
That's what you could do, is just put it down below.
That's what I was asking earlier.
And so now when I grab this, I'm going to just grab all these, hide this. And so now I've got my all others plus the top 5. So, it's just, you know, something that somebody has requested of me in the past. And, you know, I had to kind of figure that out on the fly. How do I do that? Yeah. But you still have to have that anchor row to get that sum there, and then, you know, have that value and take that. So those are charts and graphs. Put something in the anchor row, hide it, you're good to go. Now, when you build charts and graphs, don't do it from a grouping report. It will break. It is very, very difficult. Another limitation is I couldn't have a dynamic row with a dynamic column. It won't understand what to do. I tried to do that, and what it does is it grabs the first replicator row, and it grabs your anchor row, and it skips everything in between. For some reason, when you build a dynamic column with a dynamic column with a dynamic row, the chart just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't refresh properly. I've had many requests for that, and I've talked to all the other analysts, and everybody says, no, there's no real way to do that. Basically, you have to take your chart, your info, turn it into a pivot table, build a chart off that pivot table. So that would be the only way you can go about doing it.